Good morning, everyone. Yay, we got our tech worked out. Happy Friday. Thank you so much for your patience. Really appreciate it. So we'll go ahead and get the regular meeting of the ReGen Monterey Board of Directors to order. So call to order. Roll call, please. Here, Shirley. Here.
Vice Chair Delgado.
Here.
Director Blackwelder. Director Askew. Director Barber.
Present.
Director Garcia Arzola.
Here.
Director McKee. Director Pedori.
Here.
Director Byrne.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you very much. Please join me in standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, at this time, I'll open it up for public communications. Anyone wishing to address the board on matters not appearing on the agenda may do so now.
Show them online.
Fine. No one in the room. All right, I'll go ahead and close public communications. We'll move on to the consent agenda. We have items 5A through 5G. Would the directors like to pull any of the items on our consent agenda? Okay, I would like to pull 5E and then also 5F. So we'll start off with 5E, and this is something that we do every year. We have changed how much we've contributed over time. We're looking at contributing $25,000. And I am in support of that, but I would also like to see the county come back to us sometime this year before we approve this again, to hear a little bit more about their plans and wondering how we can maybe better collaborate with them in different ways. So if there's any additional thoughts on that. What are your thoughts, Felipe?
I think as soon as we can get them back, we want a clearer understanding of what their intents are.
Yes.
And how we can expand on some of the items that they're working on. But they need to own, the cameras, and they need to own the cleanups. And we want to make sure that our investments are qualifying for our areas. And if they're not, then how is the county going to make the adjustment to meet some of the needs that ReGen is looking for this contribution?
That would be that within the MOU. Modify the MOU to come back in 6 months, or
The MOU will expire at the end of this fiscal year, so we'll have another opportunity at the next budget year. But I think the recommendation I'm hearing from the chair is let's hear that, and then the board can give guidance on whether we want to continue the 25,000 contribution, or do we want to design it in a different way that could benefit all the member agencies here.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Any additional comments on this item?
Just want to know, is this like a formal recommendation to the county, or are we just discussing this?
This is an actual MOU agreement with the county that we would support their litter abatement, which is 25K. And traditionally in the past was 50,000. And within the last 3 years, we've done a reduction to 25,000.
My question is, the chair's comments, are they going to be part of the MOU, or
No.
It's just a email
A board action for staff to come back with an update with the county, and the board to give guidance to staff at that time for the next fiscal year.
And that's fine. Thanks.
Okay.
I guess I do have a comment just to say it's much appreciated how much staff is involved with trying to keep our neighborhood clean and work on this issue. And I appreciate the chair's suggestion.
Yeah. Okay. Great. And then for 5F, that is our general manager performance review. Really nothing has changed. I just want to make sure that all the board members realize that they need to have their evaluation filled out by the end of June. And then we'll be meeting with this item in closed session in August. So just a recognition of the timeline. Okay. I don't think I went out to the public. Does the public want to pull any of the consent items?
Sure.
Okay. So we'll come back. And so I will take a motion for the consent items.
Second.
All right, so moved by Director Perduri, seconded by Director Garcia Arzola. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, we'll move on. Thanks, everyone. All right, okay, next we have a fun part of the agenda. We're moving into the recognition presentations. We're looking at the artists in residence for the 2026 presentation. We got Eric Palmer.
Good morning.
Morning.
I'm always jealous of the people that can just go do this so quickly.
If you need help, Yavuz is still here.
Sorry, my eyesight is really bad.
I can't see it either. So you're not alone.
Okay. Good morning, Chair Shirley and members of the board. My name is Eric Palmer. I'm the Senior Communications Coordinator here at ReGen. And I'm here today to talk about our Artists in Residence program, which is celebrating a significant milestone. We're celebrating its 10th anniversary in 2026. I'm very excited to introduce you to our 2026 cohort as well. For the first time in the program's history, we have 4 artists, and we have 2 here today, Daniela and Ava, and Jordan and Evelyn are here with us online. And I think it's having 4 artists is a fitting way to mark such a meaningful anniversary. And I know this annual recap's a highlight to the board. It certainly is for staff as well. And there's always a sense of anticipation as artists reveal what they created, because as you know, it's different and exceptional every year. Most of you are familiar with the program, but for the record, California State University, Monterey Bay runs a competitive selection process to identify artists who are at the top of their class for a fellowship here at ReGen Monterey, and they join us during the spring semester of their senior year. And each artist gets a stipend to purchase materials at Last Chance Mercantile, and they're also welcome to scavenge freely at our public tip floor, located right next to the materials recovery facility. And the artists we select come from a variety of disciplines, and most come to us specifically wanting to challenge themselves creatively with working in mediums they haven't explored before. So that's part of what makes the program so exciting for all 3 partners. The 3 partners are CSUMB, Last Chance Mercantile, and ReGen Monterey. And there's a shared sense of anticipation as we wait to discover what each artist comes up with. And at its heart, the program is all about inspiration, encouraging our community to rethink what they throw away. And as the saying goes, one person's trash is another person's treasure. And if you ever visit the tip floor, you know how true that is, because there's a staggering amount of materials that people drop off that is still in good condition, materials that could have been recycled or repurposed or donated. And our household hazardous waste facility offers free paint. The Last Chance Mercantile has a very strong crafts section. So together we offer artists enormous canvas and an abundance of materials to work with. I've lost. Can you go to the next slide, please?
It's a down button.
Yeah, okay, there we go. So over the past decade, we've welcomed an extraordinary roster of 23 student artists through this program. And as you'll see in the slides ahead, each one has produced something incredibly and distinctively their own, pieces that reflect their individual values and talents. And we've seen it all from mosaics to paintings, woodworking, textile art, printmaking, and more. A great example is Jesse Villarreal. He took an unusual approach of documenting our employees in our facilities. He created a mural and dozens of paintings. And since we're celebrating our 10 years, I thought I'd just share one story. One of my favorite moments in the program's history was when Jesse unveiled his first piece, which is a large piece of Carmen, which is a veteran hawk here at our landfill. And the falconer, Leo, he surprised us at the reception with a visit. And as you can see from the photos, he was really excited to be able to hold the hawk. He had just seen it from afar and took the painting. But what followed was a really touching moment. Leo's colleagues here at ReGen, they really quietly, after the reception was over, purchased it really quickly before anyone else could, and surprised him the following week. He was really touched that there was just a painting of a portrait of his hawk, which is his favorite, that exists, but then to own it himself was a moving moment for all of us. And then as you can see on this other photo, It goes beyond art. Part of the program is learning how to execute a professional installation. So the artists develop their public speaking skills like they will today, and they learn to articulate the meaning of their art and field questions from an audience, which becomes an essential skill once they become professionals. So we offer this program not just to inspire a community, but also provide a professional platform for these students to grow as they transition into their professional careers. So for anyone who'd like to take a deeper look into our program's history, I invite you to visit our Artists in Residence website. And you can meet all the past artists. And in recent years, since I've been with the program, I've made a point to put the portfolio of their work from the fellowship. The program wouldn't be possible without our project partners, Hector Dionisio Mendoza, we call him Dio. He helped found the program, and he got the idea when he was at CXUMB. He was actually a previous artist in residence at Recology in San Francisco. They have this really storied history. They're celebrating 35 years, and they've had over 200 artists. So he approached our agency in 2016, and the rest is history. And I have a lot of respect for him because has a real gentle but firm way of mentoring and challenging his students to take the program seriously, which they always do. They look, inspiring him to look at it as a privilege, likely seeing how it helped his career. And then since Last Chance transitioned to management by Veterans Transition Center, we want to thank the operators of the new store, Freya Reed and Jill Goodpasture. They're generous enough to still host the students, allow them to work in their yard, purchase materials there, and have an installation there following the fellowship. And they're talented artists themselves, as you can see when you go into the building. They're so beautiful. So we thank Freya and Jill. So for the 10th anniversary, the program shifted our usual installation over to CSUMB so they could host a longer and more expansive exhibition to celebrate the 10-year anniversary. And all the previous artists of the program were invited back to display new pieces that used found and discarded items. And they exhibited them along with the art from the 2016 cohort. So it's a remarkable gathering of 10 years worth of talent under one roof. And I was really honored to speak on the panel alongside the other alumni artists, where we reflected on the program's history and its contribution to our community's ongoing conversation about sustainability and waste reduction. And then, without further ado, we come to everyone's favorite part, which is hearing directly from the artists themselves. And I'd like to introduce our 2026 cohort. And joining us in person today are Daniela and Ava, and joining us online are Evelyn and Jordan. And as with every artist I've had the privilege of meeting in this program, these four share qualities that never fail to impress me. They're remarkably professional, a real pleasure to work with. And you could tell that Dio and the VPA department take the selection process really seriously. And that comes through because year after year, they bring us artists who are not only exceptionally talented, but they carry themselves with the kind of professionalism you'd expect from artists beyond their years. So first up, I'd like to introduce Daniela.
Morning, everybody.
Take her down. Go through, yeah.
Well, my name's Daniela. A lot of people call me Danny. Either one's great. I was super excited about this residency. When I transferred to CSUMB, I knew nothing about it or what a capstone was or just anything really in the program. And I quickly just was introduced to all of it. And I was super excited when I heard about sustainability and art coming together. That's just like two things I'm really passionate about. And then when I got accepted, of course, I just was super excited. And I mostly, before the residency, worked on just like 2D, like smaller scaled, either dry or wet mediums. And just quickly dove into all materials and just kind of made whatever came from it. For example, Wings Over Waste started off as just a drawing, charcoal drawing, which I was like comfortable and familiar with. But then I was like, okay, like what else can it be? It's got to be something else. I know it's not finished. And as Philippe and I were talking earlier, my first visit here to scavenge, I just noticed seagulls everywhere. And so I wanted to honor them and thought about this piece as if like a seagull was or were creating it. And so there's like thread going through like soda tabs and through burlap, and then cardboard. And so it just kind of created itself at that point. That was probably the piece that happened the quickest and the one I didn't plan at all. So I thought that was awesome. It might be one of my favorites, which I guess I'm not really allowed to say as an artist, but it's like, yeah, I love that piece so much. And as I mentioned earlier too, I wanted to create something that honored them, but also like shined light on how they ingest this food and they come here and or they fly around and just observe and pick out what they can eat. But a lot of it just like is not great for them or anybody. So creating that tension with the burlap through the neck, I thought, again, just kind of happened. I was like, oh, yeah, that's exactly what it is. So that was wings over waist. The first exposure happened just kind of out of a love letter to photography, which was my first medium. I didn't actually, I feel like I was like late to art. That's not really a thing, I guess. I don't know. But I moved. So I was born in New York, and then we moved to Connecticut, which was like an hour and a half from New York. And then to Miami, Florida, lived there for 13 years, and then finally to Salinas. And through that transition time, we had art in elementary school, and that was just kind of it. Like there were no artistic resources in school. So I guess dove into sports for a bit and then like majored in physical therapy, which looking back now, it's like, what was I doing? That's so random to me and my life. And I took photography as an elective, like black and white shooting film, and was obsessed. And then just kind of dove into it and stayed up super late, just like watching YouTube videos and renting books at the library and just like feeling like I needed to catch up to the artists around me. And so this piece was just kind of like created out of that, just honoring those moments that have led up to like this very moment, because without that film class, I would not be an artist in residence. So that was, yeah, I'm grateful for those times. Yeah, and then art just kind of took over and is like in everything I do. So a couple more pieces. Photo booth, I guess going back to like the first exposure, like more photography themes. That was a charcoal drawing. And the frame I salvaged. And then there's a little piece of a Levi's jean tag on the left. There were a pair of jeans that I saw, and I didn't really know how to incorporate it in the piece, like tastefully. So I was like, you know what, that'll do it. Just a tag, I think is fine. And then on Nature's Time, this was the very first piece I created for the residency, and found a clock that didn't work. And I was like, perfect. I don't want it to work. Because like we run on it as, I guess, a measurement of, or a measure of, not a measure of, what is the word I'm looking for? We turn to clocks and watches and Apple watches and timers and all of this stuff to measure time, but we're really just on nature's time. And all of that is just like just this material we use to keep track of where we need to be at what time. So yeah, just kind of seeing a broken clock was the inspiration, and just I ran with that. I was like, okay, yeah, it is nature's time. And so I started with the drawing of a tree stump right in the middle. And then, so that was colored pencil, and then continued around with paint and colored pencils and their pencil shavings as the minute marks. Used clay for the like melted off numbers, which kind of look like worms a little bit. And then within the wreath around, I used twigs and just branches and my own waste. So from like protein bar wrappers, I would just like include it in there because that's kind of what you would see on a walk in the forest. Pennies, some like wood chips, tea wrappers. So anything I was ingesting, and made sure to just like take some of it and put it into the piece. Yeah, I had really a lot of fun with that one. Hand in hand, just going back to the appreciation for nature and how we are not here without our planet. And we just might as well take care of it and do our best. It's like the only home we have. And that was colored pencils, watercolor, and ink. And I was just kind of looking down at my hand for this one. And I was like, or we all can do that now. We just have all these lines, and it kind of reminded me of just holding a leaf and how we see those engravings. And they're just like, again, goes hand in hand, literally, with nature. And then Lighthouse Keepsake, I salvaged this frame, and the blue just kind of made me think of a home by the ocean. And I really love lighthouses. And yeah, this just kind of happened at like 4 a.m. I was putting materials away. I think I was working on what else did I make? On photo booth. And then I went to my desk to grab some tape. And then there I found some cardboard, and I was like, oh, then I started a new piece. So yeah, sleep was gone that night. And this one just kind of happened from like 4 to 7 a.m. Then I finished it the night after. I didn't go to sleep. But yeah, just also paying homage to lighthouses and how people can be lighthouses and help guide you, and how you can be a lighthouse too for somebody else. Just shine your light on somebody. Yeah. So lighthouse keepsake, maybe like something you would find in a home by a lighthouse. And then this is Eva. Thank you.
Oh, can Eric, sorry, can we ask, Kim, you had a question for Danny?
I'm sorry.
Just kind of ran on.
First of all, congratulations. I think this is amazing how you found yourself and you found the inner artist in you. So my question to you, and I mean, I'm listening to you and I'm thinking, wow, you know, you're a lot deeper than you think. And I'm thinking that that artist has been fighting to get out. So what's next for you, and how did this program impact that?
Thank you for seeing that. I appreciate that. What's next for me is sleep, probably. And just continue doing what I'm currently doing now, and just more of it. So I teach part-time at elementary schools and Seaside Middle School. And I create just on my own time, or like do commissions. And so a lot more of that. I would probably take a year before going into a master's, most likely.
Okay.
I want to pursue a teaching credential, so have the option to be a full-time teacher, or I think a college professor would be really cool. Be doing that and then continue exploring, really. Like I think the artist in me is still wanting to branch out, and I haven't like met
Mhm.
that peak yet, whatever that is. I think as an artist, you learn a medium or a theme or something, you start a series and then you just continue because like you can't help it. It just takes over. So I'm excited for what that looks like. Yeah, it's been strange to graduate and like have all this extra time. And it's like, okay, well, I can watercolor now if I want, but I also want to like learn how to screen print and just like do all the stuff. So really this residency has helped me work with so many different mediums and has helped me grow in that way. And I'm excited to keep doing that. Like, I think this was like the start of this crazy new chapter.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Okay, yes, yeah, go ahead.
Sort of building off what my colleague said, why did you choose the artist in residence program? Like what made you want to apply?
Well, I just love Earth. I love nature. I love doing my best to be better, like as a person, then also just like as this like human container on this planet. Yeah, I could get very existential. So but yeah, I mean, again, just like thinking about art and then the environment and how two things can coexist in a school setting, I thought was incredible. Like I feel like, or I wish every school had that opportunity. Every student had that opportunity. I would apply again and again and again if I could, if I wasn't like just a senior in that semester. But yeah, I was just immediately drawn. And it just goes to my love for art and Earth.
And did you have any expectations coming into the program, and was it completely different than what you were expecting, or that process like?
Expectations. Well, I knew I would be introduced to new material. As far as like the work itself, I didn't really know what to expect. I didn't come in with a clear vision on like, I'm gonna do a series on this and use this palette and this material. I was just kind of open to whatever was there. And I was like, just inspired. I'm easily inspired. I feel like we all can be if we choose to like seek something. You can pick something up from anything at all. And so just being in this place, the first time we toured the facility, I was very emotional because like we think about our waste and it's like, oh yeah, we just toss this and that. It's so easy to do that. But then like when you really come down to like where it goes and just like actually seeing it in person was impactful. And this was just like one city in one state. And so just like thinking about all of the waste centers all over the world, I'm like diverting from your question. I'm sorry. But yeah, as far as material, I was just kind of open to anything. And the work too, just created what came. And I think all of them are pretty different, but they all just go back to like appreciating Earth and nature. Yeah.
Lastly, was there like a talent that you discovered throughout this process, or a specific form of art in which you hadn't tried before?
Just mixed media in general, I would say. Like the seagull drawing, for example, I did that and I was like, okay, like it's a cool, like realistic seagull. Not that realism is like the best art. It's not. I think like we choose that for ourselves. You might be an abstract person. That's just as great as realism. But just knowing that there is freedom to like use cardboard with charcoal and ink if you want. I think that like really changed me. And now I'm just like working on a piece, and if it calls for something else, that's great. I don't need to like set these boundaries or think about like, oh, a painting is just a painting. No, it can be so many other things too. Yeah, so I would say the freedom in creation and material is the biggest thing for me.
Yeah.
Save my questions for the end.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, Danny, so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate your
Thank
work.
you all. Thank you so much.
Do I just use this to do the slide?
Yeah. You just thought.
Oh, okay, okay, cool. Okay, hi everyone. My name is Eva. I was born here in Monterey, lived here my whole life, so it's kind of cool to like be part of this program just because it's like this facility is so important to like our city and everything. So I kind of have been doing art like my entire life basically. It was like pretty much something I always knew I wanted to do, like regardless. Like, I mean, I remember being in elementary school and I was like, I'm gonna like go to college for art, like I'm gonna learn how to do art. And I went to Monterey High and I actually had an art teacher there who was phenomenal. And I honestly don't even know if I'd be here without her. So that's really important to me. And yeah, CSUMB, this program, when I first learned about it, I thought it sounded super interesting because, you know, Dionisio, he presented it to us. And I had never really like done what he was describing of like mixing like materials and like salvaging stuff. I was like kind of primarily like focused on like drawing and painting before then. So it was like really new to me, but I was interested in it because it sounded like I wanted to challenge myself basically. I wanted to like see if I could do it, and I tried my best. I think I did an okay job, but yeah, I wanted to challenge myself, and I also feel like I also love the earth. Danny, we all love the earth, so I was like, this is so cool. Like, I want to like see what I can do with this, and art can be kind of like a wasteful practice, like just inherently because you're like kind of just burning through like materials a lot. And you always have to like go buy new stuff. And obviously, like, you know, it's important to like see your vision through to like fruition. But like if you can try and do it like in a more like environmentally conscious way, like I think that's really important. And I also think it's like just cool to be able to say like I didn't need to go buy like a bunch of stuff to create this. Like I was able to like, because it does force you to like think outside the box a little bit. Because like this first piece on the left, that was the first one I made, and it was really challenging for me because I was trying to figure out like how can I use these materials in like a way that's like true to like my art practice. And yeah, so I just kind of took things and I like kind of put them together and kind of was thinking like how can I make this work. So it was like definitely a learning experience for me. Like I feel like I learned so much from this, just like through the process of it. And for my pieces, in my art normally, I kind of explore like a lot of themes related to like femininity and like women's experiences because it's just like kind of important to me in my current stage of life. And I feel like it's important to talk about just in today's world and how social political climate, like it's just something I want to like show in my artwork. So that was kind of like one of the central concepts for like all of my pieces, but also I was thinking about the environment a lot because of the nature of like this facility and the program. And technology is like advancing really quickly right now, like super fast. And like not only does it affect like us as individuals, it's like affecting the environment like really badly, like heavily. So that was kind of what I was thinking about. I was kind of thinking about like how we're all advancing and how it affects like my identity, I guess, and like women's identities, but also just like how that intersects with like affecting the planet. So that was kind of like the main inspiration for all of the pieces I made. So I was just kind of thinking about that and like how can I represent that and also represent myself because I think like making art is very like it is very personal and but you also want to be able to connect with like your audience and your community and like who like what you're making the art for. So that was another part of this program that like helped me like learn how to do that. And also VPA in general, like that's like kind of our goal is like how can we make art that's like thinking about the community but also like advancing our own like personal identity. So that was kind of what I tried to do. The piece on the right on the wood is actually, it used to have a different painting on there and I actually sanded it off to put this instead. So that's kind of like one of the ways of like kind of repurposing something like, and I tried to show, and the painting that was on it before, it covered the wood entirely, but I kind of, one of the things I loved about this program is kind of like the appreciation for like the material itself and like using the material to inspire you. So I kind of tried to leave some of the wood blank and like just show that. And also the orchids are on there because they kind of make me think of like the women in my family. So that was really important to me. And yeah, so moving on, these two pieces, the one on the left, the lace that's on there was like the first thing I salvaged actually. And I was really, really excited about it. And it made me really excited to like make the work because and it was perfect. And that was the other thing that was interesting about this. When you're out salvaging, like all of this stuff is like in like great condition. Like you're like, why is this getting thrown away? Like this is perfectly good. Like it could have been donated or whatever. And it was like this like literally perfectly intact. I'm not sure what it was for. It might have been like used for like curtains or something. But I was like, this is crazy that I just found this like just immediately like that. So yeah. And same with both of these pieces, I was just kind of thinking about like the intersection of like technological advancements, like with like our identities and like the impact it has like just on the world around us. So the one on the right is a self-portrait, and I was kind of thinking that same thing. Kind of thinking about like the part of myself that isn't influenced by technology and the other part that is, and like what that makes me feel like, I guess. And that surface I got from Last Chance Mercantile here. And again, like just the base of it is what really inspired me because it's interesting to go from like just working on literally just flat surfaces. Cause like, I mean, a lot of artists, like that's what we're doing is just working on something flat, like, and just trying to make something from it. But like when you are given something that like is completely opposite of that and you're like here do something with this like it makes your brain like go. So yeah, this program like it not only like helped me like progress as an artist and like I've learned so much and I feel like I'm like much stronger. I feel like I've learned like also how to work as like in a more professional environment as an artist, which is important to me because of course like this is something I want to like keep doing in the future. So yeah, I'm just really grateful like for this opportunity and I feel like I've just gotten so much from it and I'm just grateful to have been part of it and everything. And yeah, that's kind of it. Yeah.
Thank you.
Evelyn, could you hear us and could you say hello?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Perfect. Sorry, I'm a little bit under the weather, but hopefully I can get through this presentation without coughing. So hello, my name is Evelyn. I'm one of the artists, obviously, at the residence. And how I came to this residence was I had found out from previous people who also did the residency, so specifically Michael and Ashley, and they had talked to me the year before about how much they enjoyed it, they loved it, and how it expanded their practice. And as someone who, before I knew I wanted to be an art major, I wanted to be an environmental science or environmental studies major, this felt like a perfect opportunity to combine things that I was interested in. And so when applying, I knew that this was something I would take with me for the future in expanding my practice and just the way that I conduct myself while I'm making art. So I wanted to focus this residency on an aspect of what I did for my capstone project, which was exploring the topic of amatonormativity, which is a social construct and assumption that assumes that everyone desires a romantic relationship and that everyone's better off for pursuing this relationship above all others. And for me, as someone who identifies within the LGBTQI plus community that doesn't prioritize romance, this was an interesting opportunity to explore that idea, and specifically the intersection between environmentalism with holidays and consumption on Valentine's Day, and then how does that interact with me as a person who's not interested in romance. So as you can see on the right, I believe, I did a piece called Will You Be My Valentine? And it just explores the way that Valentine's Day and just around that time in general that we expect certain things from people or like the language that we use both in marketing and just casual conversation, which gets into my piece of Watch Your Language, Sweetheart, which is oftentimes when we are having just typical conversations, matonormative phrases can kind of sneak in. So a perfect example was one time I was having a conversation with someone about, what I was doing for my future. And they kind of assumed that I would be getting married at some point in my life. And when I expressed I was not interested, they kept saying, oh, that's sad. Maybe, you'll find the one. And so it's just simple things like that that we should just be paying attention to because they can impact queer communities and then the ways that we have conversation. Next slide. Possible. Thank you, Eric.
You got next slide.
We're working on it.
No worries.
There we go.
And then I also, while I was working on the residency and having all these opportunities to salvage, it kind of got me inspired to not just focus on these negative aspects and just explore my relationships in general of how I find social connection and comfort through familial and platonic relationships. So I ended up doing a piece last minute with the people in the residency who I've worked with and have influenced my art so much to the point where I can recognize like where I draw inspiration from them in my pieces. With Love Songs Part 2, which is an homage to a previous piece where I wanted to highlight the importance of platonic relationships. So Eva, Jordan, and I, Danny unfortunately couldn't make it, but we all went out and just hung out and talked. And it was such a wonderful experience that I wanted to save that image as like a still life forever. And so I wanted to incorporate it on one of the pieces. So I had a record that I got for free from the last Mercantile. And so I ended up painting it on Love Songs Part 2. And with Specks of Time, someone important to me is my mother and the relationship that we have. And then growing up and being able to continue to have a relationship with her is very important to me. And I just wanted to acknowledge how she shaped me fundamentally as a person. So with Specks of Time, I'm just paying homage to the moments I have with her. So the landscape that's painted on there is from an actual photo we took together when we had a trip up to Point Lobos, and then the detailing on the tile is like actual. It matches images that are in her own like her bathroom where she puts up like post-it notes, usually just like either little reminders or just simple like affirmations of you got this, you're confident, you're brave, you're kind. And so I just wanted to pay an homage to both the past and present of how we conduct ourselves in a healthy relationship and how important those like relationships are to people outside of just romantic relationships. Next, thank you. And then kind of circling back to the other focus of just exploring, Valentine's Day and these expectations. Obligation kind of is this sort of disgusting, but kind of rude awakening of our habits around Valentine's Day. So we still spend about billions of dollars on chocolate that end up getting thrown out each year, and that's not even including all the waste that's created from the packaging. And so I just wanted to acknowledge that in trying to behave under this social construct of what to expect for Valentine's Day, even doing the bare minimum does add up over time in a landfill. So I wanted this idea of like, oh my God, it's this gross moldy chocolate that's like spilling out of the container. And even this packaging, we see like little like moments of Valentine's Day stuff within the trash, and just how even doing like the obligation, the bare minimum can still add up to create a lot of waste in our landfills. And then lecture is a piece that I really wanted to explore sculpture outside of painting, because I usually tend to work more like doing acrylic paints and 2D work. And during my time here at CCMB and at the residency, I wanted to take a chance to explore more sculptural and mixed media work, because thankfully this gave me the opportunity to do so. And so lecture ended up being this piece where I said I couldn't touch paint at all. I had to do work completely 3D and sculpture. So this piece is just exploring again the linguistics of our language and how a lot of times that can interact with different communities. So something specifically I noticed when I was talking to queer communities is the way that when people are learning about it, sometimes they can unfortunately frame it as like a lecture or like almost a topic of study rather than engaging with a person. And so oftentimes for the queer communities, it feels like we become almost like an exhibit or a museum. And so I wanted to try and recreate this based on when I was spending time with several of the residency students when we went to like an aquarium and museum, that we saw all these like exhibit pieces, and it almost like a light bulb, it clicked of like, oh my God, I kind of understand like these when I was having these conversations, kind of like what other people were feeling of, oh my God, I feel like an exhibit rather than a person engaging one-on-one. And so, as someone like in the queer community, we often use symbols to identify ourselves. So, in this case, I used a jellyfish because there's this free flowing and like no expectation, go with the flow, which I feel there's a lot of fluidity in the LGBTQI plus community and finding our identities. But then that's also still trapped within the expectations of sometimes having to teach other people about our own identities. And so, this is one of my favorite pieces because I got the chance to not only explore a topic I was super interested in, but then also explore mediums that I wouldn't normally work with. That's it. Thank you.
Jordan, are you there?
Yes, can you guys hear and see me?
Yes, we can hear you. Yeah.
You can't see me? Oh, sorry. That's never mind. Um, so I'm
We're getting there. Hold on.
okay.
Go ahead.
Well, we might not be able to see her.
All right. Oh. All right. There you go. We can't see you, but that's okay. We can see your artwork.
Perfect. Well, I'm Jordan Josie. I'm the last artist in residence for this year. Just briefly, I grew up in a military family, so I moved all around, but I was born in California and spent most of my life here in California, mostly located down in Southern California, like San Diego County. Um, but having lived in Monterey for college, I got to be exposed to just the value of having access to nature. Obviously before living here, I still loved nature. I still loved the earth. I still loved environmental impacts and being conscientious of how we engage with nature. But having access to like just raw nature in the way that the Monterey County provides is definitely something that has shifted the like connection I feel to the environment. It's definitely a different energy here versus in Southern California. And so something I wanted to take with me for this project, like the residency, was what those intersections of like human life and nature are. And obviously humans are a part of nature, but I feel like we like to desensitize and distance ourselves often from what those overlaps look like and how we engage with nature day to day. And so I took this idea of um, memories or experiences and how I can reflect those in a natural way. So for like this piece on the side, the rattan sunset, that is the rattan is the almost wicker-like netting that's happening on this surface. And then the sunset is a picture I have of Carmel Beach, just a really natural and raw, like beautiful experience of nature. It's a memory that I have because often when I want to have a break from the grind of school and work, I'll just go sit at the beach. Um, and I chose to put that on the surface because a separate theme that I was running with was the idea of symptoms of comfort. So, are the visuals and the sensations that I associate with feeling comfortable or feeling at home? And so having felt that connection to the nature and that homeliness to the nature here in Monterey County, I just kind of wanted to pay homage to the homeliness of the material of like a wicker or rattan and the sensation I was feeling with like getting to experience nature here. And then the Ammonite Echoes is kind of a mosh podge of a lot of different elements in my life. The word echoes is probably the most important there. Um, it's inspired by a necklace that I was gifted by my best friend from her late grandma. Um, it's an ammonite shell, and it has these like browns and oranges and little bits of like tans in it. Um, and I find that pattern and that color scheme a lot in different elements of my life, such as my cat, such as the ammonite. I've been recently like doing my hair with those colors, which are like big parts of my identity and the way I experience life on the day to day. And then the shape of the shell reflects my ear. And I placed like these pieces that reflect like my jewelry that I have on my ear, my different piercings. Because once again, that's a large part of my visual identity, I feel. Um, so just working with that idea of how are there rhyming or echoes in various completely separate parts of my life, such as my cat and this necklace and my earring, and just very different things that I feel kind of in a way all come together. And again, it's that intersection of like natural visuals with things that are almost completely separate from nature. Um, And then that's it for this slide.
We're trying to move to the next slide, Jordan.
You're good.
There we go.
Perfect. And then this piece, the California native, once again, this idea of how very natural elements intersect with memories or this idea of homeliness. And so, like I said, I grew up in a military family. I moved around a lot, which meant I don't really have long-standing roots in any one area, but I do feel deeply connected to being a Californian. I was born here, and I've spent most of my life here in various parts of the state. And so with this piece, I kind of wanted to reflect the areas I've now come to feel home in. It kind of works in tandem with the next piece, Mojave Ovis. But focusing on the California native, it's inspired by a golden trout. They are located in the like southern part of like the Yosemite area. Very specifically, that's where they're located or where I felt connected to them. And then the tree that's painted on it is the cypress tree that is outside of the last dorm I lived in while at CSUMB. Um, and then I used various fabrics to create, once again, that connection of home or like homeliness, because I feel like textiles are something that is very deeply like human in the sense of like giving ourselves comfort or warmth, or we have a lot of attachments to it. And so throughout a lot of my pieces, there are these elements of fabric, because that material just meant a lot for me and the meaning behind my pieces. Um, but yeah, it's just a mixed media piece combining the wood came from a fence plane, like a singular um picket from a fence, and then cut into that shape, and then it's got a whole bunch of different things. That green color on the fish is just the natural color of the wood from it like rotting over time. Um, yeah. Like I said, that piece is focused on different parts that I felt at home in California. And then moving on to the next piece, the Mojave Ovis. I'm deeply a Southern Californian. I love Monterey so much, and I love the parts of Northern California that I've gotten to experience. But I was born in the Mojave Desert, and that's where I always come back to. It's where I always come home to. And even now, living in San Diego County and not in the Mojave Desert, I still feel really connected to the visuals of nature uh, that are Southern California. And one of those is the Mojave Ovis, or the ovis, which is the ram, the bighorned sheep that we have here in SoCal. They are native to various areas, including the Mojave Desert, like Joshua Tree and the Coachella Valley, which is where I grew up and was born. And so I just wanted to connect once again that fabric homeliness in the background to this visual of nature, that I feel connected to, which is the sheep. And so they kind of work in tandem of like new forms of homeliness versus original forms of homeliness in nature. But yeah. And then next slide when you're able to. And then this next piece, Home with the question mark, is kind of a response to the previous artist Evelyn's piece, Specks of Time. We had a really great conversation one night, far too late at night, when we were supposed to be doing homework, about how the bathroom has various connections to sense of identity and sense of identity within relationships, particularly to our parental figures or moms. And so being inspired by the way that Evelyn was talking about their mom and their connection to this idea of like a bathroom reflecting or having created the space for that connection, I wanted to make a piece that reflected my connection to the bathroom. Um, and yeah, it has a lot of like deeper meanings for me that are sometimes hard to talk about, but I feel often throughout moving, the bathroom just becomes like the safe space. It's the place that has a lock on the door. It's the place that you get like this undeniable sense of privacy because, you know, it's the bathroom. And so I wanted to kind of just in a way immortalize the sensation of like the firmness with the tile, and that like it's a very solid piece, but it's also so easily breakable, like if I were to throw it or smash it or whatever. And then I wanted to tie in the methods of painting that I used with the next piece of that loose, kind of fading uh visual style. Um, but yeah, so it was just a small, quick reflection that I did based on a conversation I had with the other artist, Evelyn. And then Sugared Memories was the first piece I completed for the residency. I tend to be a very personal and like in the least bad way possible, self-centered artist in the sense that I love to do self-portraits and like reflections of things that are hyper personal and hyper sensitive for me specifically. And so when I started this process of being in the residency, I wanted to just kind of immediately start off by not centering myself visually at least. Of course, a lot of these pieces as I'm describing them are personal, but I didn't want the visual elements to be alienating to other people, and so I started with this painting that is so clearly not a self-portrait. I wanted to center um, a different experience, while still keeping the parts of it that I relate to. So this like idea of just sharing a fond memory in a kitchen. I like to imagine that this is like a grandchild and a grandmother, because that's often the memories I have of being in a kitchen are in my grandma's kitchen with like she has had these big windows and there'd be like hummingbirds and flowers and everywhere. So again, these moments of like homeliness, but with the elements of nature as well, just interweaving their way through these memories. And I just wanted to create a very soft, kind of disappearing or like hazy, memory like scene, on this platter, this tray. There was something very sensitive or soft about the material when I had salvaged it from like the tip floor. Um, and I wanted to just kind of capture that strange, like it's there. It's a very solid piece, but as you can see, it's like chipping and some of the paint has been scratched off of the like ornamental details. And so I wanted to have that same, like it's fading or it's decaying in a way, but there's still this soft homeliness on it.
Thank you very much for your support of the program. And this is my favorite part of the fellowship, but the support from the board is really important. So thanks for giving time to some young artists that are leaving from university to their professional lives, and your support, as you saw, what can happen with someone like Dio. Goes a long way, and it will continue to inspire our communities as well as we share these on our website and social media channels. So
Great.
thank you all.
Jordan, we didn't get to give you a round of applause, but thank you for your presentation too, and to all the artists. You are all deep thinkers. And this is my favorite part. Again, artists coming together, you guys are growing. Your students, you're beautiful, you're wonderful, I love your thinking. So thank you for sharing part of you today and your artwork. It was wonderful. So thanks again. Okay, quick, we're gonna have to, yeah.
Where is art display? How long is it displayed and where?
So it was up at CSUMB for the past 2 weeks, but we de-installed. And so Evelyn and Jordan have most of their pieces. I brought some of mine, Ethan brought some of the first two, and they're like displayed on these back tables. But in a gallery setting, they were up, and we just kind of had to take it down. Yeah. And there's also
there were pictures of all of them?
Yeah, so these will be put on our website, and then since it's the 75th anniversary of ReGen and the 10th anniversary of the program, what I'd like to do is weekly have introduce each artist and kind of do that throughout the next couple months, so that we can followers to our social media can look at art and I'll introduce them to our other artists as well. So I'll have kind of like a online series.
Yeah, that'd be great.
If there's ever a gallery that y'all need, I know City Hall has.
Yeah, super. All right, thank you so much. Appreciate that. Okay, we're moving on to the part that is not nearly as fun. So we are gonna have a public hearing. This is for the fiscal year 26-27 disposal fee increases. We've talked about these, and so now this is the opportunity to have a public hearing to hear comments from the public. So I will go ahead and open up the public hearing. Is there anyone online?
I show none.
Ida? Oh. And I don't see anyone here in the chamber. So no, all right. I will go ahead and close public hearing. We'll move on to our first discussion item, 8A, approving the disposal fee increases for that fiscal year 26-27. Again, these are what we've talked about before, and so this is our final approval. Anything else? Any questions, comments?
I just want to add, we had no changes to the rate impacts that we proposed at the beginning of our process. And so they remain the same as discussed in former discussions that we've had. So no movement, rate changes that we initially used.
Did you receive any questions or feedback at all?
No questions, no feedback. We did do our diligence and get it posted here on site, posted in the papers, posted on our website. So we did do our diligence to get it everywhere we were supposed to. Yes.
All right. I'll take this up for public comment. Any public comment on this item?
Sure not.
Okay, bring it back. Have a motion at this time.
Second.
All right, approved by Dr. Barber and seconded by Garcia Arzola. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? No. Okay, motion passes. And next, we're moving on to our discussion for fiscal year 27 draft budget. We've got Rosanna who's going to be presenting. And I know you have a time limit. You need to leave at 11, so we'll try and be cognizant of that.
I'll try not to talk too long or make you guys laugh too much. Because this is the fun part.
Oh, right.
That's kids'
Rosanna's fun part.
Right? My fun part. So variables. Our total revenue is increased. I think that's the correct one. I'm sorry. I'll go back. No, that is a different
older
one.
one.
That's the older one. Sorry. So information wasn't changed, but it's just kind of the order presented to where it makes more sense in the flow and make it easier for everybody to kind of catch everything. And we can.
Do you want to copy you?
Yeah, I have it. Okay. If you guys want to follow along, and then we can work on work on that. Okay.
We all have our packets. We're good to go.
Yeah, it's in the board, right? Okay. So the total revenue increase overall is a 2% increase from prior year's budget. Our disposal fees are still our largest revenue source, and we're projecting an approximate increase of 6.4%, primarily due to a 4.9% increase in our disposal fees, and then also additional contracts that were acquired this current fiscal year. Our MRF has a projected decrease of revenue. It's really due to those higher processing fees, the fluctuating commodity prices, and then the fact that we do know there's fuel tariff type of external impacts that are going to affect their revenue. Our power revenue has intentional projected decreases. We need to maintain that higher repair and maintenance process for our most expensive pieces of equipment. That causes a lower runtime as we're bringing those engines and those generators offline to maintain them. So at the point that we're able to acquire new power contract, obviously that revenue opportunity will change, and so you would see for the better. When we go to our employment costs, both sets of employment and non-employment costs have a projected increase of 3.2% over our prior year. And our overall net income is projected to decrease by 18% over last year's projection. So just a few factors on that. Our prior fiscal year projection on revenue assumptions did include inflated tonnages. We are seeing that isn't maintained. For this year, we have flatlined tonnages, so we won't see that type of volatility in those portions of the revenue projections. But ultimately, we also wanted to take a conservative approach with revenue overall. And so we did do a little bit of a discount to the revenue, understanding that there are prior year trends that we have seen where revenue didn't always quite make it. And then also, we did increase our expenditures a little bit aggressively in certain areas that would be impacted by the cost increase and the supply chain impacts on fuel, materials, and infrastructure due to the current state of the nation and just not knowing what those external nationwide and global-wide impact factors would be for all the materials we would need. So our assumptions, again, were meant to be conservative this year. We continue to evaluate where these costs could be reduced, but a majority of our operating expenditures are core, and they don't really proportionately change if there were to be a decline in tonnages. In a later slide, we'll also discuss opportunities for offsetting our revenue volatilities. Next slide. There's still evolving items that may also impact this final budget presented in June. All of them are tied to our employment expenses for our salary and benefits. We do mention in the budget book regarding our landfill master planning, but that's set to start in the new fiscal year, so we won't see adjustments or new outlooks until we project out the outer fiscal years. Next slide. This is our revenue mix of our total revenue. We can see our large piece of the pie is always our disposal fees, and they continue to make up the majority. Our MRF and our power revenues remain smaller, but they are our most volatile components. And then we also have our other sales column listed, which is our smallest portion of revenue. We put in brackets the types of revenue that brings in. But what we wanted to depict here is our largest revenue makeup, our disposal revenue. You'll see on the two left slices of the pie that represents our regional waste contracts, and that makes up approximately 42% of the total disposal revenue. Our largest regional contracts are listed there and named just so that you can get an idea of the disproportion of, that one large regional green waste contract versus our others. On the three right sides of the pie, the three right slices, this represents our franchise and also our all the other materials that are coming in through our gates that is not tied to the regional contracts or the franchise. So that makes up the last 57% of our projected revenue. And currently, our out-of-district waste contracts, those regional contracts, are critical to maintaining our material volume and stability of that. Our personnel costs do represent our largest expense category. They're driven by cost of living increases, our step increases, our healthcare pension costs, including the additional $500,000 that we contribute annually. While they are the largest expense category, we do know that they are our most valuable asset. So retaining that skilled knowledge, the workers, and ultimately that can reduce our risk because they already know our facilities in and out and they know what to watch for and how to stay safe. And it also creates our path for succession planning when we can retain them and their transfer of institutional knowledge. This depicts our highest non-employment costs, over $1 million. It's just a snapshot, and we do see that our repair, maintenance, and our recycling is commonly a high factor. Repair maintenance did increase in our projected budget, and it's predominantly due to staff finding there were areas that were categorized as capital infrastructure improvements, but are actually closely related to repair and maintenance when we look at it from the governmental accounting standards. Next slide. So this is our, we're moving into our capital spend, both our equipment and our infrastructure. And our mobile equipment is listed here, the investment of approximately $1.4 million anticipated for the new fiscal year. Next slide. And then we have our capital improvement projects for the fiscal year outlined. And obviously we all know this, but our capital improvement it really supports our infrastructure and our operational needs so that we can continue our service continuity, right? So, Even though they're kind of broken down differently in the budget, we do recognize that a lot of these things, we have to complete them for compliance so that we can continue to remain open. Here we've listed our 2 revenue bonds, their expenses. At the bottom, you will see that our debt service coverage ratio remains stable and well covered. Historically, we're, approximately 2 times our required amount of 1.25. This slide shows what our fiscal year 27 total ending cash consists of. It would namely be our reserves and our unrestricted and undesignated cash after that. You will notice a drop in the unrestricted cash in fiscal year 27 as opposed to our estimated end for fiscal year 26. That's largely due to the unspent capital infrastructure budget that we had, as well as cost savings from our budgeted operating expenditures for this fiscal year. These unspent funds ultimately increase our overall unrestricted cash for the year, but we don't anticipate this to occur for the new fiscal year. We've made strong efforts to align our budgeted capital to projects that we actually can start and spend the expected amounts for this year. And we feel really strongly that this trend is going to start to decline. When we look at our reserves down below, we continue to maintain our operating reserves, and specifically the contributions for our capital and our post-closure that follow specific calculations is projected to be $2.2 million overall for our capital contributions, and then $750,000 for our closure post-closure. In our budget book, we do discuss the gap closure for our capital, and that's really to create a catch-up for our pre-funding shortfalls from our prior years. When we look at the capital reserve subtractions, just simply our reserve policy does state that our reserves are to help pre-fund our expected equipment replacement costs, as well as smooth our cash burden for our capital projects that we have in the out years. So this slide is just our proposed intended use of the capital reserves for fiscal year 27, as well as an estimate of the 3 future out years. You can see the beginning balances do already have our estimated contributions for each of the fiscal years for each of the capital reserve types. And then there at the very bottom is our final overall projected balance of the capital reserve as a whole. We move over to our cash available for fiscal year 27. It would be primarily used to fund our capital investments, our debt service, and our reserve contributions. So what we are looking for here is that cash sustainability. And this is where we begin to see a little bit of pressure. So you can see highlighted in yellow, the fiscal year 27 projected change in unrestricted and undesignated cash balance is a reduction of 9.3 million approximately. Even though in green, we can see that we have a net positive income after we've done our revenues minus expenditures. Ultimately, we're projecting to spend more than what we have coming in. So it's important for me to share that this is intentional for this new budget year. We have deferred a lot of prior capital infrastructure needs as well as equipment expenses. And so it is time for us to address some of those critical needs for this upcoming fiscal year. Next slide. So also in our budget book, we talk about the 3-year outlook as a whole. And we use the fiscal year 27 projections as our baseline when we are looking at the 3 years after that. We do project an overall operating revenue increase of approximately weighted average 3.93% in each of our out years. We also are using an assumption that our expenditures are going to increase of a weighted average 3.72% in each out year. We also are recognizing or anticipate cash funding our capital improvement plans and then maintaining reserve funding. So what you're seeing in those out years is all of these anticipations and what would that look like if we kept to the T on all of those things. So what we see is a tagline essentially from the last slide, and you can see that our ending total cash balance continues to drop in the out years, aside from that slight increase in fiscal year 29. And ultimately, that slight increase, you can see a little bit above on the capital acquisitions, is because the year was a couple $1 million drop in the capital acquisition projection for that year. So though we do have positive net income overall, by fiscal year 30, we can see that that total cash balance really projects to a drop of about 63% compared to our current state at estimated year end. So our overall balance for fiscal year 30 is roughly 1/3 of today's estimated ending balance levels. It essentially means that our overall cash balances are projected to decline significantly because of our negative use of cash, the areas that we need to, we project to spend money on. This slide is showing how much of our ending cash is actually available after we fund our reserves, these anticipated capital projects, as well as our debt obligations each fiscal year. As we saw from the prior slide, we do have significant past planned cash usages, right, year over year. And ultimately, those are reducing our total cash balance in each of the years except for fiscal year 29. What this slide is really speaking to is that our commitment, once we've accounted for our commitments, our actual available unrestricted cash begins to go negative in fiscal year 28. Our capital spending reduces our available cash to the point where we cannot sustain our reserve levels. And more importantly, it indicates that our overall planned expenditures currently exceed our available cash at the end of it. But as previously mentioned, we know that our capital spending is directly tied to maintaining the infrastructure and the operational needs that continues that service for our community.
I just want to add right here, I think this is a good time for us to talk about this slide. This was the one that the precursor meetings with staff deliberated on. This is the one where the finance committee deliberated on, as well as the chair and the vice chair in this discussion. And so this is relative to budget over budget, next year's prediction, and then an out year stretch. There's a few telling stories in this one slide here, and I want to applaud Rosanna and Giselle and the finance team for making these more visible for the organization. It tells a story, one that we'll need to continue a trek to get more contracts and get more revenue. We also have to monitor and be flexible in our spending for capital requests. $11 million of the capital request this year, a lot of it is attributed to deferred infrastructure work that was desired for the landfill. So we feel we still have 9 years. Our trek was to 2036 to still break this down and really look at it. So we need to look at what our capital spend is going to be and the flexibility. Those that were present at our workshop, one of the items was we did have cash in hand, but they were designated for projects to get completed and for infrastructure to be developed. So this is not as alarming as it should be when you're fixing the motor for our mechanism to deliver revenue. So this is a strong push for that. I think 3 is we need to monitor our funding contributions on an annual basis. So we have our operating reserves, that's pretty whole, but we do have capital infrastructure reserve. We also paying the AU supplemental payment to pay down our debt and liability. So I think we just need to monitor what those funding contributions, when we don't have that cash in hand for being net positive on operations. At some point, we'd like to level out what those capital years are going to be demonstrating so that we have a consistency that the cash delivered after operations could still cover capital expenses. We're close, but we're not there. This tells that telling tale. And then we still need to continue to contribute to bang out what I'm calling the legacy liabilities in the bond debts that we have, and also the AU pay down. So those 4 items are significant triggers that we've been trekking to accomplish, but they're visible now for us. So it does tell that story. And I think there's 2 items that lacks in all of this. One is the results from the current year, which we're going into. So we don't know what those will be. They could be favorable. I think Rosanna mentioned this this is the portrait we paint out based on the reality of what we're just averaging out if we did nothing else. The second thing it lacks is the amount of pivots that this organization will make when we recognize that things need to get done or we need to accomplish more revenue. So this board has done that. And again, I think our staff has finally gotten to the point where we can recognize all these outcomes that could occur if we just did absolutely nothing. This team is not built on doing absolutely nothing. It's built on going out and achieving. But this is, when you look at the whole budget, this is the one that raises your eyebrow on how are we going to continue to afford what we're getting done. But it brings optics to the challenges of what we need to go and get done as an organization. At this point, I'd hand it over to Director Ramirez if you have a few comments on this as well, on accomplishing those types of projects that we have intended that's in this forecast year.
Yeah, absolutely. A big portion of the capital improvement spend is module development. And one of the things about module development, you can either do a very large liner or smaller liners every year. And in the past, ReGen has done the larger liner approach to be able to get us more time. And what Rosanna is really delivering to us now is the constraints financially of how we will need to design the build out of the landfill to match what we can do financially. So I think there's a module 8 liner in here on fiscal year 29-30 and 29-28 that are in the tune of $9 million just to install that liner. However, if we can fill in a different pattern, if we can try and do smaller build outs of that liner, we can stretch that out over a longer period of time. And this is the information we really needed from the finance department to tell us to right size how we develop the landfill. The liner for module 8 could take us to 15 years beyond of landfill capacity just with that one liner. So we do have a cash flow issue to address in the capital plan, and we're addressing that through the current master plan process that's going through that we're going to be enacting this year. So this is really good. It looks bad, but it's really good information for us to have over this next year to be able to address it in the right time. Because when you need a liner, when you need landfill space, you need landfill space. And so that's really going to drive how we develop. So I'm really grateful for Rosanna pulling everything out of the closet and letting us see what kind of information we have before, and so we can put it back in and build it back better.
Thank you, David. So we just have simple on the last 3 sides. It's just outlining our projected financial position and the fact that we are net positive when it comes to our net income, right? But we do have these deficits that are driven by these 3 areas, the investments, the reserves, and then the fact that we didn't have enough revenues to support those. When we look at our strategies for mitigation, we've listed out some of the things that the team has been talking about, and there's more details in the budget book, but we just wanted to call them out there that we also are looking at. These are things we think could be areas to moderate costs and for the finance team as a whole, for us to better project our revenue expenditure trends and the capital needs tied with engineering. So these are just some of those highlights that we wanted to make mention. And then, of course, lastly, that possible board considerations, we are in the clear for our next fiscal year, and we've got a lot of work to do on our end, but just that you guys be aware of the different things that you also are considering when you're deciding what directions you want us to do, what deeper dives you think is the most promising. Wanted to just outline that. So,
Thank you, Rosanna.
Thank you
very much. So we've got, Roseanne, I know you need to go, and so questions could probably be
Talk to
directed
me
to,
and David and Zoe and the team.
yeah. Okay, Director Barber.
Thank you for the report. Appreciate that. I know you have to run. But wanted to thank the committee for the work that they've done as well. Looking at the cash on hand for FY 27, the total cash, how many days cash on hand would that be with the reduction due to the capital acquisitions?
So which page are you on?
It's no page number, it's just the 3-year outlook.
It's the first page of the 3-year outlook,
And that's the FY 27 budget.
the changing cash.
And then also, just trying to see how many days cash on hand would that actually equivalent to?
Many days cash on hand?
Right, so you have total cash, if you look at, because a lot of different organizations are dealing with deficits and different other pieces, but they're looking at, when I look at the cash on hand, I always want to know if it comes down to just the cash, especially when you're talking about it decreasing, how many days of operation does that give you if it comes down just to that?
Yeah, so we do have a operating reserve,
Okay.
which is supposed to cover 3 months worth
Okay,
of
that's what I want to know. Okay,
3 months of
3 months.
operation, and that's, I believe that's separate than this number here.
So what would this
It's
number be?
undesignated cash.
So the reserve is 3 months. So what would this number be?
I
representing?
don't have that information.
So that's what I would be curious to know.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Director
FCR is left.
We'll get the slides numbered. We knew it was an issue coming in.
There are numbers.
Numbers on the bottom right.
Slide number 7, for obviously gasoline, oil and fuel, do we have a contingency plan for potential increases in gas?
We do, it's built into the data there, so we went and pulled a national average of what we're estimating it to be, so we do have a number in there. I think this budget here is challenging because we have those uncertainties and we did up the numbers. I think the budget is showing worst case scenario, but we do have the contingency in.
Thank you, that's all.
I wasn't finished. I still have another
Oh,
question.
sorry.
That's okay.
Yes.
No, it's all good. We're all trying to figure it out. It's all good. It's all good. So the RFP that we spoke about last board meeting, and how that would look with our contracts, how would that impact our unrestricted cash and being able to free up some of the different
The RFP,
that we spoke about the last board?
it will have no impact to our budget. The RFP is paid by the municipalities.
No, not paying for the RFP, but the contract that comes out of it, any type of cost savings there or more revenue increases?
No, I mean, it's still same amount of volume, so we can
Okay.
expect that we would have volume increases, but we haven't had them.
Okay,
So we, in last year's budget, in the current year budget, we had made an assumption of a 2% increase in volume.
so just
And we haven't, so when the contracts get switched over, we're assuming
the
same amount of volume.
amount of volume.
Same amount of
Okay,
volume.
so it's not gonna really have an impact one with the other. Okay, thank you.
Questions? Director Dario.
I was just thinking through how the last presentation was talking about Earth and taking us above, and this one's bringing us down to Earth. Maybe we can just flip this the next time around, so we're going to the weekend with a positive outlook. And to the so I just had just a couple of questions really. It seems like the 28-29 is the biggest kind of drop because of the liner kind of thing related to unrestricted cash. And there's a potential to spread it out evenly so we don't see that massive dip. Would it be helpful? Just tossing it out there, noting that there are obviously we're trying to change the Hulver contract is going on. There's this 2035 kind of the thing that's really critical for the organization. Would it be helpful to have a 10-year outlook so we can actually see what is happening over the course of time for 10 years, which I think will be beneficial for us because some of the aspects that you mentioned, David, would also come into play there. So it's just something to consider. The other piece was there's mention in here about a pending master planning study or something. After that's done, are you going to come back to us with a refined presentation? Is that
I'll take a first crack at your answer and then I'll hand it over to David. One is I want you guys to go home happy today, mainly because we have the optics of this budget that we didn't have. And I did share with the chair and the vice chair. When I first got here, I just made a gut assumption we needed to have an increase, that it was the right thing to do for our business. And over 4 years, that has matured into now objectives and really focused, and now having the bearings to see what is really happening. So I want this group to walk away saying, we're in a lot better place by optically seeing the challenges that we have in front of us. To answer your first question, that 10-year outlook, it'll be framed up with the master planning. The master planning is about a 20-year outlook. That will give us a more significant data of what we can input into this 5-year outlook. And I think the chair said, the vice chair said this very well. Is this a sign that we need a little bit more revenue coming in? And I would say absolutely yes. So staff will go back and figure out what is that? And what would it look like? And we'll come back to this board before we go and look for anything else. But it could resolve. And mainly because we need to get caught up on that capital infrastructure that had been deferred for some time. Once we can get on a steady path of $4 to $6 million, maybe $5 to $7 million of cash on hand after the operating expenses, then we should be able to just be very self-resilient. But because we have challenging years because of the required infrastructure that was deferred or required infrastructure for us to stay in business for the next 100 years. And those will be the challenges. And I think that's where that flexibility is coming in. So I hope I answered some of your question, and I'll hand it over to David. I think we're on the same page.
Yeah, Felipe teed it up really well. And from the engineer standpoint, this is exactly what we need. We need to know the constraints. We need to know what we're dealing with, because there was a plan that was inherited by Rosanna and myself of how we were going to develop the landfill, which include holding off on some decisions, holding off on filling in certain areas. And what this tells us is that that's not going to be the case anymore. We need to play some of these chips that we do have, to levers that we do have to pull, where we can build some smaller liners that'll get us 7 years out in the meantime, and then push off the bigger liner to another, to either smaller liners or one bigger liner out in the future. So I feel really confident in how we can adjust the build out to be able to make this piece go, to make this more palatable. The big piece, like you're saying, is the 10-year outlook, the 20-year outlook. That's exactly what the master plan is doing. And so what we want to do is work with finance to right size that outlook so that the plans match the financial expectations or a crystal ball that we have. And they both need to work hand in hand. And that's really, Rosanna's a great partner in that. She's come up to speed really fast. And that's the other leg of the story that I needed to be able to do this master planning. And what you'll see is the master plan development come to you in the next few months with some of these levers that we're planning to pull. You'd heard talk about the truck yard being in the landfill footprint, the compost facility being in the landfill footprint. And this master plan is going to give us a timeline. When do we need to make these big decisions? How do we manage the land use on the site? So really have a great partner to help develop that. And this is where the engineers and the finance team get to work. And so I feel really confident that this is a good marker of how we're going to go forward. And I believe it can be engineered to smooth it out so that this kind of stuff doesn't happen.
Great. So I'm glad that we're thinking through like the not just near term but long term future. So that's great. Just a couple of side comments, or at least questions. We just blessed the disposal fee increase. I'm guessing that's part of this, right? The disposal fee increase. We've also was wondering if and now I lost my train of thought. But now it's gonna come back to me, I guess.
How old are you?
Sorry, I'm still floating on the clouds from the previous presentation, I guess. But I think I'll come back to it, but I was.
We have
just
another
asking.
chance. We get our finance committee. So if you have your questions pop in for anybody on the board, send them to us, please. We'll have a chance to make our edits to the draft, get a final put in front of the board. So we have a short turnaround really is next week. Because then we have to have our packet ready for Wednesday, which is the finance committee day. And then we'll be bringing a final for the June meeting, but we'll take all the questions as you get them. Okay.
Thank you for the filler. I remembered. Yeah. So there was something in here where it looks like our insurance costs are also increasing, right? Like health insurance, et cetera. So my question was really, are we doing anything there? Is that something that we RFP out or?
So we are looking at options for the health and welfare. The health and welfare plan is not expiring, but the rates are going up in it. And so we're exploring with OE3 now. OE3 is the health and welfare provider. We do anticipate that health and welfare is going up, but it is in the budget. So we do have it tracked there. It's not absent of it, but you're right on. There is a tick in there, and mainly because we'll call a sunset at the end of December. We need to start getting in line by October for contributions for the January 1st start date. So we've been working on it. We are looking at options, and we'll come back to the board and give you guys an update.
Thank you.
Yeah, good catch.
Yeah, Director.
This is all really healthy. And I think a lot of our cities, I know Carmel, we've been faced with massive deferred maintenance, probably about 115 million for a tiny town, because we've kicked the can down the road for a long time. I think a lot of us are finally realizing we can't do that anymore. It seems to be spreading pretty quickly. And so it's healthy and allows us to make decisions that we should have made with the good data. It's hard to believe that we haven't had it previously, really, when you get there. But all of a sudden you wake up the next day and it feels good. You start feeling like you're really in control of what you're doing. I watch the Monterey meetings and they're the ones that woke us up. You know, it's good when and they come clean and say, this is something we have to deal with. It feels really good. And it starts permeating through the whole organization where everybody's looking all the time. What can we do to make this better? And so this is great. Thank you. What a great job they did.
Yeah, it definitely opened up another view, and she's bringing that view with her, which is excellent. I mean, there's the challenges and why and how come. So she's really testing the bar. Your contributions are great. That it does feel good. I think David was the first one to say, "This is what I needed to really understand this right here," because now he can jump into action and reshuffle the deck. So yeah, we're excited with the opportunity.
It's a puzzle, and it's fun getting everybody on the team to solve all these different problems. It's wonderful.
Yeah, Director Bird, thanks for recognizing that. I think when I talked to Felipe, he was really excited about this budget because they had dug so much into it and had really put together pieces that they hadn't before. And our finance meeting was great. It was almost 2 hours of kind of digging into that. And so yeah, I really appreciate the work of Rosanna and Giselle and everybody contributing to really look at the future and what we're going to need to move forward. You're good?
Okay, Shirley. Yes, may I just offer a quick response, I think, to Director Barber to your question? So it's dangerous when lawyers do math, but I think I know the answer. We can ask Rosanna to confirm. You asked about how much time or operating expense could be covered by both the operating reserve and then cash on hand. I think I got the math right. Okay. So the operating reserve is supposed to cover about 20% of the operating expenses or 2.5 months worth of operations, assuming no new money comes in. So you got to operate in a catastrophe situation. So that's about 2.5 months, and the unrestricted cash is about 1/3 of that amount. So I think that gives you another 3 or 4 weeks. So maybe that's 3.5 months when you combine those two sources.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. All right. Any further questions on this item? No. Okay, we'll take it out to the public. Any questions on this? No. Okay, we'll bring it back. And this is just a discussion, and so we've had that. Are there any further comments on this? No? Okay. Again, thank you to the staff for all the work you've done. Really appreciate it. Okay, this next item is 8C approving the covered aerated static pile construction project change order. And we're gonna take that in conjunction with the next item, 8D, which is authorizing where that money would come from. So we'll take those in conjunction. So I'll give it to David, I think.
Sure. Just a quick explanation of what this is. We've authorized the construction of the CASP, the compost aerated static pile system. There were some areas that we cut pavement out, and we replaced that with dirt in order to value engineer the project. Keith Day, in discussions with Keith Day, he is willing to front the money for the paving that he believes it will improve his operation efficiency. And so these two items are being brought. The first is an agreement between ReGen and Keith Day Company to reimburse us for the pavement in the amount of $500,000. So first, we get that agreement between him that he's gonna pay and we're gonna build. Then the second one is actually the change order with Granite Rock Construction to do the work. So this is financially a wash for us. It's going to be a reimbursement. He's going to pay us back for the paving. So and it's going to improve the facility. ReGen will own the paving, the facility. So it's really a win for ReGen and for Keith because he's going to be able to operate more efficiently.
Good, thank you. Questions on this? Yes. Will maintenance fall under us?
Not during the term of Keith Day's lease. The company is responsible for maintenance.
And that's consistent with the agreement, original Keith Day agreement. So this is an amendment to that agreement. So all those conditions still apply.
Just a comment on a question. Just from my understanding, Keith Day is footing the bill, right?
Correct. Yes. It's a reimbursement. So we will authorize the change order contract under our name, and Keith Day will pay us for that, reimburse us for that.
We should find more partners like these. That's exactly what I was saying. But I think I just was curious, like, how do you show this in the financials? Like, does it come out a receivable or?
That's a good question for Rosanna. I'm not for sure how that works.
I think you're gonna see the accounts paid by us and then received by Keith Day. But the agreements is the most important. It's saying that we will get paid. So,
okay, all right, that's all. Thanks.
Good. Any further questions on this? No? All right, take it out to the public. Oh, sorry, did you?
We just need 2 separate motions.
Yes, great. So public comment on either of these agenda items, either on the change order or on the reimbursement. Seeing none, we'll bring it back to the board. So let's take the first agenda item, which is the change order. So I'll go ahead and accept a motion on that. Okay, Director Garcia Arzola moves to approve and Director Barber second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, so motion passes. And then the next item will be the reimbursement for that change order. So, okay, moved by Director Garcia Arzola.
Second
by Director Perduri. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All right. Opposed? Okay. Thanks, everyone. More concrete coming our way. All right, staff reports. Moving on to the financial report. April.
I'll be quick. Just a real quick revenue update for us. Revenue year to date is about 3.1 million below our budgeted, primarily due to lower waste volumes and weaker recycling markets. We're producing a little bit less power than we had been, putting all 4 engines to a test. We're running about 2 engines consistently now. Our revenue month actuals increased compared to prior to month, driven by higher power generation, which is a good sign for us. It's our first, it felt like our first full run month without any interruptions, without any surprises. So we're feeling like it's in great condition, and we've learned the most we've ever had about that power plant. Employment costs year to date are 1.1 million lower than budgeted, mainly due to vacant positions and reduced overtime. Operating expenses, the story that tells it all, 4.6 million lower than budgeted. And then our overall net income year to date is about 1.19 million higher than budgeted, close to 2 million. We're on the right track. We've already created a pathway, and as you heard from our budget discussions, is we're trekking in the right path. We're gonna have some opportunities in front of us to normalize our operation. Thank you.
All right, any questions?
I have a question. In our budget summary, we had listed a power revenue decreasing 10.1% year over year due to higher maintenance. And we've had a few years of challenges with our power generation program and revenue. And you've just given some good news. Do you see where we're going as a trend toward becoming more revenue positive and less downtime, et cetera, that reduces our revenue?
Yes. I wouldn't say our current infrastructure is developed for that, but the opportunities with the 3C agreement have opened the doors and optics around other opportunities. And we're working on that long-term usage of the fuel coming from the landfill gas. We're very close. I believe staff will be coming with some opportunity and positions that we can be taking. And we still have Monterey One Water pending to receive power, and we were having discussions with them. So we're a lot closer. And yes, the goal is to use that additional revenue that we can pull from the landfill gas to supplement our need for our overall revenue and our capital expenses that we have. We're on the right track. The rebuild is in process.
All right, you brought up Monterey One Water. My memory is that last year we had a snag about what they need to do on their side of the fence, et cetera. And so last year we were talking about June maybe being the turn-on date. What's the update on that?
I would say turn-on date is not until June, until we can get an agreement in place that reflects the actual need for the infrastructure, for the power demand, and Monterey One Water's commitment to a long-term agreement, and also the rate for that long-term agreement. I would say we're pushing towards the end of the year to have an agreement in place, and power can be turned on shortly after.
Thank you.
They're still receiving some of the infrastructure. It's not totally all in place, so we're not missing the mark by choice. Some of it is still by design, and then we'll get into the agreement stuff. And we are getting support from Shoot, Mahalia, and Weinberger.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. You want to give?
Thank you.
Sure. Yeah. Thank you.
All right, next is other correspondence, but we don't have a TAC. No.
Not this
No.
month.
Okay, so GM comments after that.
I'm gonna allow Director Schultz to speak on some of the items that were just maybe a little bit out of my context of how I can deliver it. So she said she would deliver it for me.
He's being humble. So I'm going to end this meeting on a happy note. Not that the budget wasn't happy, but to bring us back to happy items.
Yay.
There's a statewide association of California public information officials, and we are, as a solid waste agency, part of national and statewide associations that are part of our type of work. But it's really interesting and fun when communications and marketing folks can get together with others that do the same type of work and learn from each other or peers. So this conference that we call it CAPIO for short, the California Association of Public Information Officials, is held annually. This year it was held in San Diego, and Eric Palmer attended on ReGen's behalf. We try to go, all of us try to go when it's in the Northern California area. This year it was in San Diego, so he attended on our behalf. And we had submitted for a few different awards, and I'm happy to bring home, or Eric was happy to bring home for us a bag of awards. The first one, we received a certificate of excellence for our Charged Conversations battery campaign. We had received a reward last year for that campaign as well, for the PSA portion of that campaign as well. But this year, we took home some awards that were actually collaborative awards between ReGen and Salinas Valley Recycles and all of the member agencies that we serve. If you recall, Blue Strike Environmental, Rose Ferdine came and presented a campaign that was called Sort with Heart. I saw Bruce has a sticker on the back of his cell phone still for Sort with Heart. That particular campaign, when he was taking pictures, brought home a few different awards. So the first one was an award of distinction for our bilingual public service announcement. So we received that. So that's for the videos themselves. We received the top award, which is an EPIC award for the entire campaign. So that included the murals, all the other projects that were part of that entire campaign. And then, to Eric's surprise and our surprise, out of all 500 awards that were, or nominees rather, that were part of this conference, there were only 4 Best in Shows. And we took home a Best in Show for that campaign. This would not be possible without the collaboration between ReGen. So I want to acknowledge Kristen O'Hara and Eric Palmer as a part of our communications team, Salinas Valley Recycles and their communications team, and the entire tax of both of those 2 agencies, as well as Cal Recycle, who gave us funding to put on this campaign. So that's these are the awards that we took home. We're also going to be continuing this campaign over the course of the next fiscal year. The MOU that you approved as a part of consent for SB 1383 included a $25,000 media spend to continue this campaign in the local markets. Thank you.
I just want to add a comment. You know, Palmer brings a distinct love for telling the story. And we had a discussion back there with Danny, one of the artists, and I asked Danny a question, and it was, you know, how do you know when it's done? And she says, when I love it. And I kind of see that in Eric. When he loves it, he thinks he's done with what he's working on and narrating the story. So it's been a great privilege to do that. I'm going to kind of rush through some of my other general manager comments really quick. We did the groundbreaking on the CASP. It's coming. We are arriving towards the end of the year. I want to thank the partners, Cal Recycle, Kite Corporation as well for being the operator for us. We also attended a JPA Executive Directors meeting on Senate Bill 54, that's plastic pollution prevention and packaging. They've created a TAC committee, which is very reflective of our own TAC committee. This is the JPAs and public areas that do the same thing that we do here. It's usually the executive directors that are attending. I actually had Director Schultz attend on my behalf. I got my hands full here, and she attended, and I think it's the right fit because she is already looking at the horizon of the impacts of Senate Bill 54, and that would be dollars that public agencies could receive to help process certain materials that are going to be identified. So we're going to be working in this process. You'll hear a lot about it in the future. It is something that we should be having our foresight on because it could result in additional revenue that we're not expecting in our current draft year budget. So very good item for us. Also, you had seen some features in the Monterey County Weekly and the Pine Cone. I'd like to thank our communications team again. One was the CASP and what we're doing there, and also our Sort with Heart campaign, which is the carrot and food waste, how we get it out to disperse to other agencies. So we're just really happy that the public is taking interest to what we're doing here at ReGen Monterey. We also had the Iowa Waste Commission visit. We had their leadership team come, and they wanted to see what we were doing here. They had heard a lot about us. We spent a lot of time talking about all the processes were going on. Comms team took them around the facility. It was a great visit for them. They want to open up a retail store, so they got a glimpse at our retail store. They sit on about the same amount of size plot as we do, so it was almost like a sister agency visiting. And they're coming all the way from Iowa to come look at ReGen Monterey, and we're not across the nation. We're only here in Monterey, so we're very excited that we're getting the exposure that we see. You guys all have been aware of the franchise hauling updates on the MOU. I think we have one city left remaining, which is the city of Marina. And we're excited that we're coming to the end of this piece of the process, and then we'll start entering phase 2 of the process. And finally, the comms team also participated in a litter and pickup day on Earth Day, helping the LSL Creek and Los Padres Elementary School. Just want to thank everybody for their participation, and that will conclude my general manager comments. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Are there any board communications?
Say something.
Yes.
I think it's really good news about the progress of the covered covered
Aerated static.
aerated static piles. And I think it's good enough news. We heard today it's going to be hopefully online, before the end of this year. That news be communicated to the developer, Dustin Bogey, of Third Millennium Partners that are doing the 1,360 homes just south of us, because we're gonna have 1,360 new neighbors, and they're not gonna like odors. And so trying to look ahead to reduce the feedback that we're getting, complaints that we get by starting early. No one's moved in yet, so starting early with the communication. So tell the developers, we have this CASP coming and it's gonna reduce the odors, but there still will be some odors because not all the odors are coming from the CASP, from the composting. And maybe not all odors will be stopped from this CASP. We hope they will, but we're not sure. And then I want to say that the city council is going to hear from Felipe just about the update on the odor situation. But then there's also a larger public community meeting being organized with the help of Wendy Askew with other facilities like M1 Water, and hopefully we'll get some ag representatives, which is always the trickiest piece of that. And they have some exemptions, so it doesn't really matter if they don't show up. We can't really go after them the same way. But what I'm saying overall is I hope that we look for opportunities to work with the developer to disclose to the incoming homeowners what's going on so that they're more educated and not surprised when they smell that first odor coming from somewhere.
Just if we can get official information for the developer, that would be great for us. If we can get all that information.
Contact information.
From the city manager's staff. Yeah, it would be great.
I'm sorry, tell me again what you want.
Information from the developer that you would like us to reach out to?
Have your city manager talk to Felipe.
About contacting.
Yes,
the developer.
yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other board comments?
Just briefly, I just want to say, I know I've been gone for a bit, but I'm back. Thank you for being patient with me. And I don't think I've been here since the mural installation in Seaside. I just want to give my thanks to all the ReGen team for that amazing project, for thinking of Seaside, and for allowing us to also do something. So I'm extremely grateful for Zoe. Her leadership has been exceptional, and I think we definitely need to recognize that. And every time I drive past there, I need to say something at the next board meeting in my meeting. Thank you, everybody.
Okay, great. All right. And with that, I will adjourn the meeting. Our next meeting is June 19th. See you then. Thanks, everyone.